Wait, do you think, this is something I wrestle with, do you think that this is real, or what you put out there, like what you actually curate for your life is more real? Like, you got people will share like an opinion. So this is the part, is the opinion real that they did and then they put out there, or is the interaction that they have in real life real?
I mean, probably yes to both, but really to like break it down, I would say that it may be more so what you put out there, because that's what most of us want to be, right? So we're trying to be that thing. So it's like, we've talked a lot about just kind of getting out of the bubble and getting out of here and like moving away and things like that. When you leave behind those notions of what everybody else has for you and you're able to figure out what you are, that's when I think those like curating what you put out there, or, you know, being very intentional about what you post and how you post it, that's when those things are more real, because that's the person that you really are without all the strings attached of everybody else, right? Or at least the person that you hope to be, you hope to grow to be. However, obviously, things that happen in life are real, and we still have to take, you know, responsibility for whatever those are and whatever's happening in our life.
Man, hold on. All right, I'm
an adult.
We're gonna start. Good morning, good evening, good night. Welcome to All New Midnight Movie Club. New episode of Midnight Movie Club. We have a special guest. I don't even know how to. We're live-ish in what do you call this? A manor?
I call it my mom's drug lord comp.
Okay, it's a compound. I like that, a compound. So, that's where
she's not a drug lord though. Promise.
I'll believe it just in case.
She just has a house that looks like.
Well, we just want to say where it's at. It's somewhere next to Bruce Wayne in the Wayne Manor. I think it was Wayne Manor too. See, if you no, it's a compound. We're calling it a compound. It's art.
Technically, the name is Villa Bellissima. It's on the front. I don't know. So I guess Villa.
The home is called a villa.
So there you go. It's got a name.
I don't even have a name for my home.
Jeez.
What's the name of your? I bet you got a name for it.
My home?
Yep.
Oh, I don't have one. It's just filled with cats. My best friend used to call it the titty chef.
Brand new episode of All New Midnight Movie Club.
Let's start that
over. I'm your host, aRowe, filmmaker, with a special guest, Constance. I don't know how to say your last name properly because my tongue's lazy. I'm from the South.
Consola.
Consola.
Very easy.
I've always been saying like Consuela.
Yeah, there's no U in it. Phonetically.
Our kids are Mexican, so I'm so used to like Consola. Constance Consuela. Producer, makeup artist. What else? Give me the titles. What do you like putting first?
I'm really, really liking producing. So that has kind of pushed forward. I love makeup. It's where I started. Effects, I do hand effects, not like builds. But producing is just like, it activates a different part of you, and it's really fun. And you get the longer jobs with it. So
I mean, yeah. So look, before we go any further, Midnight Movie Club, if we bring up a movie, we're gonna spoil it. I don't do spoiler alert, none of that. Like, I just want to talk about it. If we bring up something and you haven't seen it, want to watch it, it'll be in the notes for what we talk about. That way you can skip with the timestamps and everything. Make sure you go follow on social media. Midnight Movie Club. No, Midnight Movie Pod on Instagram, aRowe Films on everything else. All right, we'll start. So you were getting into before, it was a little banter. I like this banter at the beginning. What was it? What were we talking about?
Like, I guess perceived.
The perception, yeah. So even with perception, like what you were saying, was real. In ways, though, even though real life happens, we try to suppress it. We try not to deal with it in that moment and sometimes pushing away, we start to create lies for ourselves for dealing with that situation. So how, if in real time we don't deal with stuff, really, how real is it?
Well, I mean, it's always there, so it doesn't really go away. I feel like having some major trauma in your life is a good way to get past those points and become an
Say, trauma is a motivator.
Yeah.
Can be.
So that's definitely changed like my perception, and also just that kind of internal narration, or how I relay things back after like a fight or a misunderstanding or a frustration that I've had. I really try to look at it very objectively and relay it exact and take account of like what has happened, what maybe I have done also in that situation. So, I mean, I guess suppressing it doesn't really change anything. You might as well just deal with it in the moment and move past it, because that makes everything much easier.
I don't know. I'm still dealing with stuff. I'm like...
Sure, you're going to always be dealing with stuff. There's always work to do.
I was telling someone yesterday how like everything that I write, I don't particularly think I'm a good writer. I don't know why I keep saying this, but I don't really think I'm a good writer. But what I write is typically, if you have to box it, it's like thriller, horror, like if you have to put it in a box. But I feel like I'm mostly writing about my trauma, the stuff that I deal with, stuff that I'm trying to figure out.
Everybody does. You just put it into whatever terms that you are able to express it. And if that happens to be a character, if that happens to be a story, in that case, like, if it's good, why not write it? Why not deal with it in that way? It doesn't,
I never thought I was doing
helpful.
it. I didn't know I was doing it until the day I intentionally did it. So my dad passed, and like maybe 2 weeks after that, I started writing the script. But what I wrote was like what really happened, like how my brother called me, all that stuff. And it was like putting it to paper is like, for some reason, I felt like I wanted to make it a movie. I wanted to make it that. And then like, as I kept going, like, and this was like a couple years ago, as I kept kind of writing that out, and I was realizing like when I wrote this other movie, it's like a short about, I kept saying it was a reworking of Nightmare on Elm Street of Freddy Krueger. Like, it's not like Freddy Krueger, but it's like about sleep demons, sleep paralysis. I felt like that's kind of really what Freddy Krueger was about in ways. I mean, there's parts of it, but like that's one thing that I took from is like, that's like what I feel during sleep paralysis. I almost feel like what Freddy Krueger, he came in their sleep, people couldn't do shit and they were trying, but you try. So anyway, all that, as I was writing that particular thing, thinking it was about this, I realized it's really about what the fuck I be going through when I fall asleep and have night terrors. Like, I end up in a loop, a constant loop all the time. And then I went looked at another script I wrote. I was like, that's me right there. Like, then I realized, oh, I'm really just working shit out through these scripts, and not necessarily.
But that's not a bad thing,
Yeah, I don't think so.
People always put themselves in their writing. I mean, no matter what, every writer, there will be something of them in that script. You can pull away to like try to take those parts away from you, and that's why a lot of times you look to an outside source to like edit it to make it make sense within the space you're trying to create in that script. But that just comes with time and writing it out, and you should be working it out, because why not take from those experiences? That's how you make really good scripts. That's how you make really good writing, and like how you get actors to connect and to really bring it to life is when there are real base emotions there that people can connect with.
Yeah, that was something in that I figured out is like, maybe when people, like, if someone says, oh, I think that was good, something I wrote was good, it probably, more than likely, in my opinion at least, the way I interpret it is they are able to connect with the problem I'm trying to solve within it. It's like, oh shit, I know someone like that, or I am that, or whatever. Versus me, like, I don't write monsters. Like, even though I'm saying it's a sleep demon, whatever, it ain't even really about the demon as much as about the person that's experiencing it. I don't know how to write a fucking monster. I couldn't. Like, what does that mean to me? Yeah. So when I say like if I have to box it, I box it there because I know I'm leaning towards like horror or whatever. But it's really just about suspense, a build up, fright, like what makes you tense, what makes you uncomfortable. And I'm often just really trying to make people uncomfortable with themselves and not so much like the killer outside with a knife. Is like, no, like, how would you deal with that? If there was a killer outside, how do you deal with that? Not fight or flight, but like, what does that do to you as an audience member, not so much protagonist, whatever. But anyway, enough about me, about you. Producer, what are you liking about producing? Like, what is it about? First, no, name some things you produced. You just came off of a set for...
So most recently, I finished the entire series, the first season of a series for History Channel, and it's called Dirty Old Cars. It just premiered January 18th. So we are hoping for season 2.
How many episodes?
20 episodes.
20 episodes.
Yes. So we have 20 episodes. Yeah. It was a big undertaking. So it was a long one. What else have I done? I was a producer for an A&E special on BTK. Well, 2 of them. One was a 4-part miniseries called Confessions of a Serial Killer, BTK. And then,
seen it.
And then the other one was a single section of a miniseries called Invisible Monster, and we did the BTK part, and it was spliced in between some other people, and it was interviews with survivors and things like that. Some tough stuff.
On A&E too?
That was also A&E. Yeah. Yep. So 2 A&E.
Big in the Discovery Network.
Yeah, they like me over there. So wow. Let's see what else. I was a co-producer on a feature film called Death Alley. That came out in 20 or 19. We filmed in 19, so 20. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. I was an associate producer for some Moet Hennessy stuff that we shot internationally as well as domestic. I did not go international or anything like that, but it was probably the biggest undertaking I've ever done. That's for sure.
For a liquor commercial.
Well, it was actually for their new service called rSeller, and it focuses on, it's a delivery service, and it focuses on their brands and their high-end stuff, but it was Moet Hennessy, yeah.
Did they give you a lifetime case of Moet and or Hennessy?
No, but there was quite a bit of Dom and some other brands on set and some caviar and things like that people were eating. I just ate the macarons, so the cookies,
I mean,
that's all I really wanted.
You could have just took some Dom with you.
Oh, I've had it. It's okay. I don't really care.
You don't?
No, it's too dry. I don't like dry stuff. So I'm not really a big drinker. If I drink, it's whiskey or like gin, like a cucumber refreshing drink.
Oh man,
it's kind of all over the map. So
okay, so you produce quite a bit. I don't want to say quite a bit. You produce some important pieces, essentially.
I hope so. It's the last few years I've definitely gone a lot more into that side, really, than I expected, and thankfully I have people who have trusted me and given me the opportunity to learn and grow. So I've worked a lot with companies here, and like Justin McClure is one of the ones I work with a lot, and he is such a doll and has helped me learn and helped me grow and given me opportunities to do smaller things on smaller commercial jobs, and that kind of just grew the passion for it. So
it's everything. There's always a moment somewhere, like the moment. So you do this one job and you do the next job. What was that moment job where it's like, oh shit, this is the one. This might be something. So you was just doing like, I don't know, fucking Spangles. Ah, come on. Do Spangles, and then next thing you know, you're doing Moet. Like, which one?
I'm trying to think like what really was like, yeah, I really like this. It was kind of just a combination of like learning the different, the different types of, I guess, producing, because really it's such a catch-all phrase, and there's so many
Man,
aspects to it. So,
man, ain't it?
Yeah.
I got a producer credit. I mean, maybe by the time this come out, maybe an Emmy.
Well, hopefully.
But because I get a credit as a producer, and I don't feel like I was a producer. I think actually I'm credited as EP, but I know I wore a bunch of hats, but I wouldn't say I was a producer. But in that world, I was a producer. Like, that's how they qualify it. The person who's probably most producers getting the associate producer credit because I got to be top line because I did all the stuff. But that person is actually, she's the one that kind of made sure I could just show up and do my thing. And I don't have to have all those scheduling conversations and things like that. Because I hate that.
Yeah.
I do not want to. To me, the producers probably, let me see, if I can rank some people, I'm going to go editor number 1, probably producer number 2. I don't want to disrespect nobody else. I'm just going to say them the top 2 to me, because the editor can make and break something just by, its pace. And there's so many things that happens in the edit that make something that was dull amazing, or something amazing dull. And then the producers who do the shit I don't want to do.
Sure.
Which I should probably just have you define, what does a producer do?
Gosh, everything.
See?
So,
and I ain't trying to do everything.
It just like depends kind of on your role, and it depends on your brain, because you could be a locations producer and just focus on that. You could do accommodations on top of that. You could do a story producer where you're just developing that, or post or pre, and then there's field, which is what I do. And I love field because I love the chaos, and I like living in my own world. Like, we were talking about what's real and what's not. If like in that instance, you get to shut off everything else, if you're lucky, and just focus on that task at hand, and that becomes your real life. And it's really fun.
I feel okay. Tell me a bully story. Tell me a story when you had to kind of put your foot down, try to get some shit done. Motherfucker, people acting like they don't understand that you trying to get something done. Go. Maybe you can't say the production. I don't know.
I will not. I'll do my best to kind of use vague terms. I definitely don't really get too sassy on set. I'm usually the one that everybody comes to, and we can kind of figure it out because I'm really good at compromising. At least with on set, I like that, and I always like to put people where they thrive. So it's like, if you feel like you do a job better over here, then I'm going to put you there so that you do well at that, and I don't have to like police you or anything like that.
Right.
But certainly had times where it's just been like having to tell somebody that what I was doing was not my job and it was theirs, because,
oh man, that ain't my job is the greatest conversations to have. Hey man, that ain't my job for you to do.
That's a lot of what it is in field. That's a lot of what you do, because people are running around with their like heads cut off, and you're the connecting force to try to make it all make sense. So you have to kind of let people know, like, this is your job, and you do have to do it. And I will get in touch with somebody if you don't.
Yeah.
But most people know their role and they understand, and usually that really only happens if you have somebody that's very, very new, and you just have to explain responsibilities.
Now, when you say you have someone new at their role, or someone new kind of that is the overseer?
Like new in, whether it's somebody just new in industry or new in the role that they're at, because you could be in industry but then start making a move somewhere else, and that's new for you. But I mean, that can also be, I suppose, somebody new could be above you too or something.
Absolutely. I gotta be careful because I may say some things.
And you just hope that they're professional and everybody's respectful. And that's actually what I really like about producing is that you always have a team. And I mean, I don't think I've ever had a team I didn't, get along with. We all complement each other well enough and we're able to, we understand there's not always time for flowery words, but there's a way to be respectful and to get things done and that we're all there to help one another. And so anything that needs to be done, it's just about communication and like getting it done because you have to finish everything within that timeline, and you have this much budget and you guys have these people and you have to do it. There's nothing else but that happening in your world.
How did you find yourself as a producer? More so the first time that you was like, I am producing.
Actually, I think that like my friend Nick, who is a director I've worked with quite a bit, Nick Barton, great, really appreciate. Again, also another person who's like really helped me learn and given me so many opportunities to try different things, and to take on different roles, as far as like department heads and stuff like that. And I think I don't know exactly what I did. I can't even pinpoint it at this point. And he had given me a credit and I was like, I don't understand. And he was like, well, you helped with this and you got this handled and well, you're a producer. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, okay, sure. Like I didn't even know that it happened, but I just want to help and I want to make sure that it's put together. And I always joke that I'm set mom because I just want to make sure everything's coming together. And so it just kind of works, I guess. And it works well with my brain.
Okay. So the first one was an accident.
Yeah. Yeah, mostly.
Then you get the second one.
Sure.
And now you have to know that now I'm a producer.
Yeah.
I'm here as a producer.
I mean, I'm like in my mind, like makeup, well, that's what I started in. So I know there'll always be those types of jobs, but producing is what I go after now a lot more, I would say. Yeah. And I like it. I think we've talked about the whole jack of all trades thing. Yeah. And for me, it's a really good fit. Because you kind of have to be, especially in field, you have to be able to like really bend and flex and you have to understand, you have to understand enough, but you also don't have to master everything because you have to be able to delegate it.
Absolutely. I think that's 100% of something I've learned or had to acclimate to the last couple years is like, when I started, I always tell people when I started, like I did everything because one, there was nowhere else to do it.
Right.
But I was learning those things. I didn't really know what I wanted to do other than like to make shit. So editing, I mean, if you want to make sure in this situation, you got to know how to edit. Everyone thinks they're a cinematographer. And then I'm like, but there's all that boring shit that you really shouldn't need to know. Like, and as I started to get from realizing all those different roles, more so on the like promotion and marketing type stuff, is like, once I got into that, it's like, oh shit, like I would have gotten so much further if I knew what a press kit was, like, or a press release, even to that matter of like, I can't remember who told me or what conversation I had. It was like, when you make a press kit, essentially, those people, when you go send something like to a radio, or newspaper or whoever media, they not finna go watch most of that shit. They got other stuff to do. They need to know like you practically have to give them the questions to ask you.
Oh.
And once I started doing stuff like that, I was getting more press. Then it showed me how fake that world was. It's like, okay, it's a game. I had to learn that, and then I got so in this world of like trying to master marketing as one thing and then really trying to make an art and running on both sides of this, jumping on both sides of this fence. And I kind of got really good at both, but the more stuff I did, it was like, these are getting too big for me to handle by myself. I need someone who knows how to do that. Producing.
Okay.
Like documentaries are cool and fun and everyone wants to do it because I think they just think it's easy. But the amount of calls that I have to make and warming people up to come let me put a camera in their face, it's like, I do not like doing that at all. Can someone do that?
And that's why there are like teams of people because you have to talk to a lot of people. You have to call a lot of people. You have to do a lot of legwork and
hurry up and wait.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. But I also think it depends on like as far as like the marketing and like the press and all of that stuff. That just depends on like what side of it you want to be on, you know?
I don't want to be on that side.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy what they call this social engineering. I like that, but I think part of that is also in the stuff that I make too. Because one thing I've also seen, like, you know, in the world of local filmmaking, I don't want to disrespect anybody, but everyone's so locked into the art, which I love. I mean, I love the art of it, but I also feel like I can't sit here and just make a bunch of really cool short films that don't do anything. Like, it's not, I'm only progressing and making my talent better, but am I really climbing this ladder just because I keep making a new thing? Like, there has to be a want and desire to continue to grow an audience.
Sure.
And that's where...
But that's your want.
True.
And that's actually something that I think just kind of comes with age when you finally... And maybe it's because I'm not a competitive person. Like, I've never been a competitive person. If there was ever, like, a race or anything or, like, a prize for something, I'd be like, okay, take it. Like, I don't care. I really don't care. Like, it does not motivate me at all. I just want to be better than I was. And I want to be happier, and I want to do more, and I want to have more adventures, and I want to make more memories, you know, and that's all that, like, my goal is. But that was something that came with age too, was understanding that my goals were not everybody else's, and that was totally fine. You know, you just have to like let them have it, and you have to focus again, like your stuff.
That's where I'm at now. I'm like, man, y'all do
just focus on your goals. Like, if for you growing an audience is what matters, then do that. But for people who just want to make art to have art or like to have fun with their friends, like that's too. Good for you, man. Put it out there.
True enough. Fair enough. You got it.
There's room for everyone.
It is. And it was crazy. I shit on it because I started as an artist, like this type of thing. And now that's like, I never had a desire to have like a big gallery or nothing like that. I just enjoy doing it and I do it. And so I take how I feel about that and try to apply it to others. It's like, hey, if you really, you know what it is? This is what it is. I'm thinking in real time. I think because they say they want an audience, and I think, well, if you want an audience, you should probably figure these sort of things out. When I make art, I 100% make it for me. Now, if other people like it, cool. I don't really care. That's why I don't really like, if someone says, hey, can you draw me or paint me this or that? I'm like, that ain't what I do. I make what I make. If you want to buy what I make, cool. If not, I finish it. It's leaning somewhere in my place. If it's just for you, I just kind of feel like don't have the talk about growing audiences and making billions of dollars and winning awards. Like, don't worry about it. Like, just make it. Don't feel like you have to inject yourself in that conversation. Maybe that's where I'm at.
I think that's maybe like a younger mentality, or maybe just also like growing up on social media, and again, that perception. But also on top of that, people don't always know what they want. They know what they think will make them happy.
Yeah.
And they focus on those things, and it becomes, you know, something they can never get to because it's such a ridiculous goal, or something that doesn't make sense with the path that they're on at the moment, or, you know, whatever it happens to be. But I think sometimes people just say that stuff, but they don't really know. But, you know, you just gotta let them have the conversation. Sure, if they need help, hey, you know, I got some advice for you, but, you know, it's not really your battle or problem.
It's not. I know. Like you said, in time, you decide like, hey, man, y'all can have it. Because I was fighting those battles, and I felt like, wait a minute, man, what's happened? I just heard you say this, but the way that you did something sabotage yourself from being able to do that. And so I just go like, man, now I'm just like, whatever, man. I hear it, but don't hear it.
But then, there's a way to be, you know, it doesn't, that sounded so like, I guess like you didn't care, but I didn't mean it. I'm trying to think of like a way to say it better.
That I didn't care?
Yeah, like when you were saying like you're like whatever, have it. But like and
No,
I
when I say
understand like
have
having
it,
like a disconnect, but
when I say habit, meaning like I'm not going to, like you said, I'm not owning their thing.
sure.
Like, all right, yeah, because with anybody want help, I'm all about it because I just love making the things. I love creating. This God complex. So it's like I love it in a real way. So when uh, when it doesn't feel real, it's like I don't want to, like, because I would get in the weeds about the details. I get so deep into it, and then and I never want to get. I'm at a place now where I don't journey into those conversations too deep and try to force them to be, go as far as I thought they wanted to go in that conversation. So I just kind of like, I hear you.
Yeah.
And I'm rocking. I feel you. And I just kind of let them navigate the conversation. And then, if it goes somewhere, it goes somewhere. If not, I try not to force it. I used to be like trying to get deep into it and like.
And I think that's maybe like your own drive of wanting to continue that pattern of creating and like doing something, especially when you love what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, of course, like you get really like, oh, you've got a project, I want to be on it, or hey, I've got an idea for it, let's do it. But it's not, always in your hands, and that's a good way to handle it. Just let them have it, like whatever they just be there. That's how you, if you need help, I'm here. If not, cool.
Because I'm very much a like idea to execution. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
I don't really. There's stuff in between. That over what we call this
like
meeting of I don't know what I want to call it. It's like so much fat gets into it.
Well,
it's like, wait a minute, hold on.
But sometimes you need that.
You need it.
For real. I mean, the pre-production on like projects can be months. I mean, especially like a feature, it's months. It's building your prop, it's understanding your characters, it's understanding like where are we gonna film this, what's the weather gonna be like, how can we, anticipate if this happens, what about if this happens, what do we need for backup. But I mean, those are back and forths, those are in a real like long project, and sometimes that does stall, but that's just how it works.
The key difference from what you're talking about and maybe what I'm saying is like you're talking from the experience of now you kind of been there, you've been in the trenches now. And you see like, hey, for us, because I believe in planning, like for real planning. When I say I did the execution, I mean like the planning, that is the execution.
You have to have a tight plan.
And
really,
you start producing. The lights get brighter.
Sure.
Situations get bigger. Do you remember the first time you kind of walked into a situation and really felt overwhelmed, like you may have been more than you could chew off?
Like in a producer role, so there's certainly been like other roles too, but in a producer role specific, or just in general since the industry?
We're back.
Yeah. That's tough because like, especially in field, I mean, especially on set, you can do other pre-planning, you possibly can, but especially like in fields, there's always new experiences, so they can always become overwhelming. But then looking back, like you figure it out, you talk to your team if you need the help, and that's the other thing is like knowing your support,
You keep talking.
I know.
What's all this casual?
So, yeah, so it's hard really trying to think of like an exact moment. There was these damn beards that I had to make for Death Alley that just were such a frustration. We figured something out I was not happy with.
Yeah, but you gotta have a confidence that you can figure it out. A lot of people get in situations like, for instance, talking about some of the stuff that I make at work, for instance, is like, you know, I fail so much that I'm just confident at everything. Not just be confident I can figure it out, rather not confident at everything.
Sure.
Confident I can figure it out because shit, I know what it's like for it not to work, and it's not the end of the world. We're not saving lives here. So, um, um,
But
so where do you?
that comes with time, though, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like
and making the mistakes.
That's why I say from failure, like not, from making those mistakes and things not working. The idea, you prepare for all this brilliance, you got all the big stuff, and then when it was time to apply it, it didn't work out.
It's like, I agree with you, like when you kind of edited it like, there where you said like confident that you'll be able to figure it out, because that's kind of a problem I think sometimes in the industry, is that people come in too confident, and that's the thing, is like you can't expect to understand or know everything, but yeah, you should be able to feel like, you know what, I'll be able to handle it. And there was definitely been moments in my career where I have had to have a good cry after work or something. But you get it out and you deal with it and you move on and you figure out for the next time, like, okay, this is an issue. I'm going to not have that happen this time, or hey, maybe I need to have two of those. It happens to
What is the point, like what you just said about the overly confident? How important is it to be able to be confident, but also be able to listen and then filter who to listen to?
So especially for me, well, in general, I think that you should always be willing to learn and understand. And it doesn't mean that you take on whatever that person, like you said, being able to filter is like, maybe you have a way of doing things and I'm watching you and I'm like, okay, well, tell me like why you're doing it that way. Like, I want to understand. I want to learn about it. Like,
right.
Maybe, maybe that doesn't work for what I want to do. Maybe I still need to do it my way, but it's interesting to learn your way, and you have to be open to understanding and hearing so that you can flex and you can bend and you can understand the next time, or so that you can figure out maybe a new, quicker route to do, and in this industry, everything is ever growing, ever changing. People's knowledge is different from their experiences. So there's no reason not to ask somebody, or at least get an opinion, or have, somebody to bounce an idea off of. And if you're overly confident, you're going to never want to take advice. You're going to never want to talk to somebody else. And what you're going to do is you're going to isolate and you're going to mess up and you're going to keep messing up because you are unwilling to take the help. And that is not how this industry works. You have to, especially when you're in field and when you're doing these features, these special series, anything like that, where it's this bulk of time, you have to lean on your team. You guys are a little family. You're in this self-contained thing. You're making that baby, like you have to rely on your team, and you have to be confident with one another as well as your own. There's that.
Talk about the time where you didn't listen and you realized you should have. Where there was some advice and they was trying to hammer it in, but everything was done and you go like, I should have they were right.
It's going to probably sound like a crock, and maybe there is something that I'm not thinking about. But I am that person that will always second guess myself. So if somebody's like, you should try this, I'm like, yeah, maybe I should. So I don't know if there really was like a time where I didn't take,
it's not peer pressure work.
Or at least didn't consider the advice, and then it worked. At least within the entertainment and like movie industry, film industry, I will say, with that work that I can think of. Because certainly, like when I was not in a career that worked well with my brain or worked well with like my pace or like like any of that stuff, like you are forcing yourself into doing something, and that's when those things don't work. That's when those frustrations happen. When I figured out that this was something I loved, and I was pretty decent at, and I always joke that it's the only time I feel like a capable human being, but it really changed my life. Really, really.
When did you feel like you was decent?
like when I felt like I was like when I figured out that this is what I
Yeah.
wanted. So, oh gosh, it's such a long, convoluted story. It just
I got time.
so many like twists. So I started, in makeup. My mom was in makeup. She was in beauty. And I was just kind of farting around. I was in the music industry before. I went to college for like marketing, business, basic crap,
I need you.
And then I was like, sure, I'll do it. And then I went into music and was doing PR and enjoyed parts of it. I did the P2 tour. I worked for Bullet for my Valentine. I did a Warped Tour, and it was fun until it wasn't, And then I really didn't like it. It wasn't.
You was doing PR.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like marketing,
Yeah.
that type of stuff. And I kind of fell into this small fashion magazine that this girl Casey was starting up here. And I was like, that sounds really interesting. I want to know more about it, like on the business side of it. Fell into a photo shoot when somebody didn't show up as a makeup artist, and then was like, oh, I like this. But knew I didn't want to do weddings. I've always loved film. I've always loved film. I wanted to know how everything worked. I wanted to see how everything built. When behind the scenes started happening, I would watch those before. Like when they had the how things were built, I'd watch that before I'd watch the movie.
Come on, what are we doing? Spoilers.
No, I know. I loved it though. So I went away to that, and then when I had my first like industry job, would have been, I think Entertainment Tonight was the very first one. No, it might have been the Walmart commercials, like as the major ones. One of those two. But it was just such a surreal experience. It was like, oh, I really, really like it.
Doing makeup.
And that was doing makeup. So I was with Entertainment Tonight twice early on in my career. And then I did Walmart commercials for 2 years, like about 2 years, maybe a year and a half-ish. And we shot every other week. And that was really just such a whirlwind. And I didn't, you don't expect it. But once you get one thing, it just keeps.
What's the biggest misconception you feel like you had going into those situations, going into these bigger projects or bigger moments and going, oh, it's just going to be like this. Oh, it's not that at all like I thought.
Well, certainly like starting in makeup is not anything. It's not like bridal. It's not like editorial. And I've done editorial, runway, opera, theater, other theater, music theater, and bridal. It's not like that at all. And you really have to learn how to like back off, and you have to rely on your tools, and you have to know your cameras. You have to understand your lighting, and that's really hard when you don't always know where you're at. So I think those things are always unknowns and kind of scary when you get there. I would say other than that, as far as like not in an artistic way, maybe like the expectation of like how fast everybody wanted everything, or like just not really understanding like how to talk to people sometimes, especially when they're bigger or more well known. It gets a little nerve wracking because you have to figure out how to do that and really help them feel good about themselves. And that's,
I mean, one thing that it's
I don't know if I was on track with that one.
you're good. We're here. One thing that I found when I first met you, I found very impressive, because I go in situations, I like when everybody better than me, because I'm soaking in, I'm learning, I'm figuring out, the energy of how people move, and like you said, by this point I had already understood this part, but the idea like things move fast, or everyone's kind of expecting you to be perfect or just know everything. It's like, I realized like, oh no, like we know why we're here. Like, so we're hopefully all have the same goal. Everyone's going to move at their pace as long as we're all ready at the same time. Get there how you get there. But one of the things that I'm going to say the attention to detail is really the conversation I'm trying to get to, is like, you was like, how does it look in the light? You was asking how it looks in light. Then like wanting to see the screen, how the camera was looking, and the color, everything. And so often I've been in situations where like someone looks at it like this, and that was it. It's like, good. It's like, then you see it, and like, okay. But just watching you do that, knowing nothing, like everyone, all I've ever heard was the myth and the folklore of Constance. Like, you got to get with Constance. It was you and someone else that always came up. And I was like, okay, I mean, I don't do make, or I don't know what that means. But you took all the stuff I was complaining about earlier. Like, what you do is exactly what I'm usually looking for people to do. So I'm always feeling like if I'm in a room with giants, and I consider y'all giants, that I want to be able to, one, learn, figure out like how this happens so I can communicate well the next time or better the next time, but also being able to have that layer of trust that, hey, you got this figured out. I'm about to go over here and I'm going to go work on this other thing or do the thing that I actually care about doing. Because if I can spend that extra time figuring out the stuff that I want to figure out, let you do your thing. And when you see people taking that type of, you could have rushed it. You could just
I
did
felt
whatever.
like I did. I felt bad that it even took as long as it did too, because I
But
was trying to go fast, but I couldn't let it go unless you was.
But that's why I'm like, stuff like that. Sometimes you just need a person who's like, not to say that you's like, I don't give a fuck, I'm gonna do what I need to do. Like, knowing that, hey, if I took an extra minute or two or whatever it is, I'm gonna get it. Not just good enough is getting it good. I've been saying this a lot now in the last several months. Like, there's getting it done and there's getting it good. And I very much want people that like wants to get it good. Not to mean that, some corners can't get cut or whatever, but can we get it good so that when we see it later, we're all happy with whatever we put into it in some degree. So watching you do that was like, oh, okay, she for real, for real. Then later I find out all the magic you've done in the world of make-believe. I don't even know where I was going with that. I'm just kind of giving you your flowers.
Shit. Well, I think that there's something definitely to being, I mean, obviously, like, it is a small industry in a lot of aspects, and especially once you've worked with a few people. But you have to be able to trust your team, and that's why people continuously work with one another. When they know how someone works, they want to hire them when they can. When they know that you do what's expected and you work well together, or you always produce something of quality, or you just work the way that they need you to, and you're there and you show up and you're, you like to be there and they like to have you. So it just works. But that, I mean, that there is something with hiring people who, like you said, you can take your mind off of it, because and thing that I always say is that my normal brain walks, and really most of the time it meanders, so that my work brain can run. I'm not gonna lie.
You gotta conserve your energy. Conserve your energy.
But that's, that also came with being in this industry for a long time, longer time. And like after that first 5 years, maybe 5.5 to 6, you really start to understand your pace and how to take the time to reset yourself, because it is such an intense, you have to bend and you have to be able to have your mind all consumed with this one thing, and everybody has to have their minds on that one thing. If there's drama from the outside world, if there's, personal stuff affecting that, it doesn't work, especially in fields. You have from this day to this day to get it all done, and that's it, So everything has to be set aside, and your brain has to be able to focus, and you have to have people that you can trust to focus on their jobs. And you just have to pack the rest away for a while.
All right. We finna get into crazy talk now. It's about to, we just got to go down this road. So That's just for dramatic purpose. Um, you think you're a crazy person?
Probably. I feel like in this industry, I mean, we had a conversation on my last gig about this, is that we all have to have some sort of probably like a personality disorder, and definitely like maybe a little like something in order to be able to do, to do this, especially in field. And it is something that like you're made for. I've done jobs that were really great hours and really decent money, and it drives me bonkers. But
Right.
give me 12 hours in the middle of nothing, burning up and, not having time to stop, and I love it. And I know that there is the overworked and all that. But the thing is that that's who I am.
Right.
And no matter what I do, I always
Yeah, because you talked about, I don't know if we talked about it on here, if it was before we started talking at all, is the anxiety and all this type of stuff. And I deal with depression and all that. But like you said, it's like for all the, when I talk about trauma, I don't know where we're at. We're just jabbering now. But trauma, I had someone tell me, and this kind of was like pseudo therapy just with a friend. It's like I work through my problems and not on my problems. So like if my pops died my pops died, had a breakup, friend died, like all this happened within like 2 months, and it was all a lot. And my answer is work harder.
Sure.
Do more shit.
Sure.
I don't even know if it was like be a distraction as much as it's like, no, I just want to do it. It is a distraction. It absolutely is. But like in my mind, I'm going, nah, man, I just got it. Let me get this thing done. I ain't got time to focus on that. And through that, I learned with everything that happened in that window of time, a lot of successes. The levels jumped in my professional life, amazing. Personal life, took a shit. And I don't know why that is more comfortable for me, like to go, I'm really happy about the work that I do, the things that I create. I'm not happy about my personal life, but I would prefer this thing work over that stuff.
Because your priority is that right now, and that's fine. And you just have to be okay with that with yourself. And also, I mean, eventually you'll find, I mean, maybe you will, who knows? I never expected to be married. I never expected to really be able to balance this at all, in any way, shape, or form. But that just kind of comes with time and, again, priorities and the seesaw. And certainly, if your priority is work right now, that's your priority, and that's fine.
I don't know if it's a priority. I just like,
well, I mean, you like it, you enjoy it. That's where you get joy. So that's where you prioritize your time with it.
Okay, we'll call that priority. I'm with that. I'll take it. But to me, the people that I know like this are very, I don't know the word. I don't know I'm just thinking out loud. But like, I guess when you love something like you like creating, the creative aspect feels so much like the thing that I do, I have control over. I can't control my relationships. Like, I mean, people try, I can't control another person. But when I'm making something, the God complex stuff, it's like, man, it's just, even just having a dope ass idea is far more fulfilling than like someone even telling me that thing is good. Like, oh man, I love it. Like, yeah, well, I gotta make something else though.
Well, I mean, that's just, again, that's that like internal, I think that's a little bit of that internal talk. I mean, that's just kind of, and everybody's different. So I don't like have that type of feeling with stuff, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think
what
of
feeling
the way,
do you have? Because
I mean, I like pride, of course, but trying to think of a way to kind of wrap up it. Make it make sense. These attributes, these little quirks that I think a lot of people in our industry tend to have, mentally, emotionally, workaholics, whatever, anxieties, whatever, all of that stuff. When you realize that those are not bad and those are things that you can harness, again, being a jack of all trades. I never had a real passion for anything. I didn't understand that until I found this industry. And it wasn't makeup, it was this industry. And when I went into like film specifically from makeup and stopped doing the other things, was when I realized it was the industry that I had passion for. And that brought me a lot of joy and happiness, like when you understand that like the things that other people maybe don't get about you are useful and you can harness them to do good or to do better for your life and to build that, like that's how you fall into the place that works for you. That's how you find the people that are like you, that understand you. That's how you find the organic relationships,
It feels like you've been reading my text messages. Because yesterday I have a friend I'm working on a project with. She's leading the project. I'm just trying to support with experience and stuff like that. And she's very like, she says, she has anxiety, but she says, she second guesses everything and she's not really ever confident in her decisions or things that she's thinking about. And I told her, like, you got to take that thing right there is why you're good at what you do. Like because all that, you're super organized, you have a very clear vision of what you want to do. Once you take that and like make it your superpower that you're not like afraid to show, so the doors kind of open up a little differently, because like when someone would used to tell me I was an overthinker, now people want me to come and overthink for them.
Right.
So it's like eventually, like everything you said is like, I literally just told someone like that negative thing isn't really negative.
That also comes with like finding people who accept you and who also understand that without you having to constantly make excuses for yourself, explain yourself, make up for who you are, because you've been around people who don't think like you or don't react the way that you do, or, don't see things the way that you do when you look at them, whatever it happens to be. But that's why it's good to have all those different personalities, and especially on set. I think we all have like a thread or something that's sort of in common, but we also all are, when you find your place, we have different ways to think where we can come together and become great problem solvers together. But you just have to lean on your people, and that just comes with time and finding those people and those relationships.
You said it's the industry for you. What is it about it that makes you passionate about it?
I mean, it definitely goes back to like the people. I mean, it's going in and knowing we all have this common goal, and that we're there for one another, and we're doing this to make this thing, and we want to make it great, and that camaraderie and that like little family, and whether it's even in film, TV, commercial, corporate, whatever. I mean, we're all there for one goal, and it's to have a good day and make sure everything's fun. So why not?
You want a hard question?
Oh, no.
This is a hard question. When did you want to quit? There's been a moment where it's like, I could give up right now.
Like give up?
Like I'm ready. I'm done with this. I can't do it.
It probably would have been like early on. I think it probably would have been early on when I moved to Vegas, because I left everything here, my whole world. I left it, I left my relationship, I left my friends, I left my family, left everything that was comfortable to try to pursue this and figure it all out. And it was harder than I thought in a new place, starting out. And I'm a shy person. I'm a loner a little bit. So it also got a little bit difficult. So I really started saying yes to things that I wasn't comfortable with. As far as like I did more background work, and I was on 2 agencies, and I modeled and I do, like more in-camera stuff than I ever really wanted to. But you start meeting people, and eventually it did work. But before that really happened, I was just kind of like, I don't know what to do, and it was hard because you don't know how to break into that, and people might not be so welcome in
But
new areas.
who convinced you to say yes? What made you say, I need to say yes?
My sister passed. So, and then I had two friends that passed, and actually like two more that passed shortly after that. But I was with my sister when she passed, and she was sicker than I realized, and because I'd been focusing all my attention on work, so I think those things make you switch a little bit. And so I definitely had some like years where I was a little ebb and flow a little bit more, but it was good. It was good for me to like have that and to get back to where I needed to be, and realizing that I just needed to get out of my comfort zone, and it was okay. And then I could trust the people that were around me because they supported me already,
What would you tell I don't know who's watching this right now, but you could be watching this right now, the younger you, the person who feels like they're just there or they are just about to be done with it. What is the thing that person needs to know about how to, you can't say what someone can do to get here, but what is the thing that they probably need to know before they try to get here?
Like about the industry itself?
About the journey.
Well, this was really hard for me to grasp, and we touched on it a few different times, but that my route, my journey, and I was a latecomer to the game. This was a new, a new career for me. I want to say it was like 26 or something, going back to school for something, in an industry when people are coming out of school at 18, 19, 20, going into it and becoming Instagram famous at 21. You know what I mean?
Work.
Like, I was old. I was still old in this industry, but understanding that your journey, your decisions, like, just because somebody might have gotten there faster or different than you it doesn't change where you're at or who you are, what you've done. You took the steps you took because you needed to learn those things, and that's
right.
Fine, and just let them happen. Don't force it. That's the other thing. It's like when you don't feel right in something and it doesn't feel like you, don't force it. There's so many parts of this industry and so many supports, and it
right.
could be in a non-traditional capacity too, if this is really where you want to be. But don't hold yourself to so many like rigid like ideas that like it has to be this way and I have to make it by it. Like, be flexible. You have to be flexible, and be open. Really be open and show up. That's a big one.
Show up. Absolutely show up. Honestly, that, man, I am I hate to say like I'm not a people person. I'm a people person. My problem is
depends on the people.
Depends on the people.
Depends on the people.
But I have sensory issues, and then I learned probably in the last couple of years that I actually do have social anxiety, which people wouldn't believe the amount of, considering how much I'm on the camera, how much I'm having conversations and stuff like that. But like, I have to psych myself up to be in medium to large groups. So when someone's like, hey, I want you to come meet this person, come do this, come do this, I'm screaming no in my head, but I say yes. I show up. And I show up, or I say yes, and then that day I'm like, how can I cancel?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, just go. And the only reason I go is because every time I went, something great has happened. And to this day, it's the same thing. If you've ever invited me somewhere, I did not want to go. I came, and I thank you for inviting me so I could come to meet this person. And so I'm only telling that because that's like, I've realized the power of just showing up, because it just gives you great favor from the person that invited you, and you just don't know who's going to be there. You never know that conversation you're going to have that's probably going to change your life. I've had 3 of them in the past 2 years, I was like, shit, I almost didn't go to that. I would have never met that person. I would have never been in that conversation. And those people still reach out to me to this day. Not even like for do something for me. It's just a conversation. And, you know, I think that keeps you in front of mind when they do want to hire you for something or pay you to do something or just, I don't know, invite you to the next party with the next brilliant group of people. I don't even know why I said that.
So, guys, I just realized that I definitely skipped over. It was not just my sister. It was definitely way more.
You know this is a podcast. Like, you could just bring it back up.
No, because I feel bad about the timeline of it. But I have a really crap memory when it comes to time because there's so many things that have happened in such a tight time period and then so many things that don't happen.
But isn't that a good thing?
It is, but it isn't, I think, because...
You're not writing a memoir, right? No one's going to hold you to these...
No, I feel bad.
Is it something you feel...
No, I mean, just like, because before, I mean, while I was like doing all of these things, the things that you're talking about, like learning how to talk in front of people and like all of those things, like, I feel like if you ever don't get nervous, that it might be a bad sign, because I feel like you should always kind of have butterflies. It doesn't mean that you're gonna always back out, but nerves are not a bad thing. They're not a bad thing to have. You know what I mean? And it's okay to over prepare. Maybe nerves will drive you to do that, but no, I mean, like while I was like getting into this industry, doing all of these things, my sister was sick, and we were going to a convention in Tulsa, a comic convention. Because I like nerd stuff. Because that's what I grew up doing. Because I was a nerd.
I mean, she has all the monsters on her arm right now.
It's the Universal Monsters as babies. Because they're adorable. And they all have stories. And names. But I ended up going to this convention. My sister was too sick to go. My mom didn't want her to go. And I understood and all of those things. But I wanted to go because we were going to meet Norman Reedus. My sister loved Norman Reedus. So we had tickets to like meet him and do all that, right? So I'm like, okay, we're gonna go. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get your autograph. Do all of that. And in process of doing this, meet this man, Jeff Krelitz, who happened to have just bought Heavy Metal magazine. And that was, if you're familiar, there was a movie in the 80s, but actually Kevin Eastman, who created Ninja Turtles, brought it over from France. And we get into a long conversation. And he's asking me, he's like, well, why are you here alone? And I tell him the situation. And so we get into this conversation more about comics and everything else. And we go to like, you know, dinner and drinks and all that stuff. And we're chatting more about this stuff. And he's like, I just bought this magazine. Like, I don't want to go to these conventions. You like this stuff? And I was like, I love it. And he was like, do you want to do this? I was like, sure. Like, let's do it. So I started doing the conventions. It was nerve-wracking. I didn't know what I was talking about. I knew about heavy metal. I knew about some comics. I didn't know anything to the level of like what these people by any means, and I had no clue how to talk to them. You know, you're all of a sudden you're surrounded by, you know, hundreds, thousands of people that want to talk to you about stuff, and then it just got bigger. And I do San Diego. Up to 2019, I had done San Diego Con with them pretty much every year, and it was just huge and it was so much fun. And that just pulls you out, and you get again meeting people, you know, and it's things that I wouldn't. As a teenager, I would never have said yes to. I remember accidentally joining the debate team, not understanding that it was like actually like public. I thought it was just like us making arguments. I didn't know you actually had to stand up, and I quit the next day.
Man, could have been a politician.
You know, and I not anymore. The internet is a bad place.
I don't even want to know. I ain't gonna Google.
Don't. So, but yeah, no, it's like those things where you like you said, you just say yes and you do it, and those were my first experience of like organic relationships. People coming up to the booth and like talking to you about something and being so excited about it, and you're getting excited for them because they're excited, and it's like, yeah, I love it. You know, like that was so fun, and that just kind of kept driving me to meet more, you know, I met more people, I did more stuff. We all wanted to collaborate. All of us wanted to nerd out about something, you know. Said yes to an after party here, said yes to an after party there, or whatever, you know.
And next thing you know, you're producing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Such
Maybe
a
one
hard word
day.
to say.
Maybe one day.
Mates, you got the leg in. So you talked about having that conversation, which, just kind of harping over what we've said before about, what we just said is like, there's also something to not being like having conversations where you're not taking, what I mean is like, if you're a producer, let's say more on the EP side, financial side of it, having conversation with you for no other reason than like, I'm really trying to get you to spend money on my project versus like just a real interest, like talking to somebody like that about shit they care about or something that they're interested in, I feel like could probably put you in a position where you could get some funding for a project or be thought about for a project just by being a cool motherfucker. Like, just be cool. Don't be you. Y'all just talk versus, hey, I want to pitch this movie idea to you. That's all he or she hears.
Absolutely. And I mean, definitely in this industry, like, your attitude matters. And I, as a person who has always had a very like bass monotone like affect, really had to learn. And I wasn't like a big smiler. I mean, it was pulling teeth to get me a smile as a kid. I mean, seriously,
As
you
a
can
kid,
like
smile like 1,000
I mean, I
times.
still want to like talk about stuff, but even in like pictures or anything like that, or just family, any of that stuff, I just wasn't. I'm very reserved. I still really am. But when, like you said, when you're talking to somebody and you're genuine about, them having success too, because there's no reason that everybody can't. There's so much work to go around, and that you have to enjoy one another and be cool with one another in order to like get through 3 months of a project. You know what I mean? Every day with one another, and you're on the phone. I mean, I'm talking to you more than I talk to my mom. I'm talking to you more than I'm talking to, my husband, my best friends, any of that stuff. During that time, you have to be able to be just cool and like a decent human being. So, I mean, it does take, that's like a big aspect of it. And I think and a big reason why so many people, again, work with the same people. And because we are genuinely like, we want each other to be successful. We want that, we want to give that back to our friends and the other people, the other makers, the other people that are coming into it. And I love meeting like new people coming into this, and them, the PAs wanting to know like, well, this is where I want to go, and just trying to make sure that they build the best space, like be a good person, like do well by being a good person and listening and growing, and we will all get better in this industry.
You talked about you meet this man, he tells you, hey, you want to go do this thing? And you're like, yeah. And then you see a sea of people. At what point do you go, I don't know about this. I think I could leave right now if that's okay. Like, where you go, do I belong here? Am I bullshitting right now?
I mean, I always feel that way, though. And we've talked about the imposter syndrome thing. For me, I think I kind of use it. It's okay to feel that way. I understand now that that's, it's okay to feel like that, because there's always room to grow and there's always room to learn more. So maybe that's why I'm feeling that way. Maybe I'm feeling that way because I look up to you, whatever it is. I mean, you just push through it.
But how do you overcome because you talked earlier about like the privileges and things that you feel like you've had to help you get to this, and then, mixing that with the idea of the imposter syndrome, feeling like, oh shit, I snuck in through the back door. How do you reconcile that? Because there are people who probably, if they know anything about you, they go, she didn't really earn it,
Oh, I don't think anybody would say that about me. Well, I would hope not. I mean, they know how hard I have worked, but
there's always some hater in the room.
But then those people don't know me. So then they have no, like, whatever they want to say, I don't really care, because the people that do know me know, and they know how hard I've worked, and we continue to grow and build one another. We don't tear each other down. That's juvenile. That's not, that's not how that works.
Right.
But
how do you navigate?
As far as like that goes, I mean, I think
because essentially sometimes that's a battle within self.
Yeah, I mean, but I also think like knowing, like, I'm not stupid. I know that I'm not a bad looking person. I know that I know how to dress, and that takes you far when you're in the beauty industry. You should be able to present yourself. And so, of course, that's an advantage that I use, because I know that. And I had a mom who was in the beauty industry and raised me to, present myself well. But does that, I mean, that maybe does add a little bit to the imposter syndrome. But I mean, I guess what I mean is like knowing that those advantages, or understanding what you have that you can use better, isn't necessary. That's an asset. It's not necessarily screwing somebody over. It's not running people down. It's not talking bad about people, because that's not the way to get ahead. The way to get ahead is to use yourself and to build yourself and to, learn and grow. Beating down other people is going to do nothing but shoot you in the foot. So as far as like reconciling an imposter syndrome, I mean, that is within your own self, but you have to go on this journey in the way that you feel most authentic. And that's the way that I do it. Even if I do feel those like, oof, how can I be here? And that is always how I look at my life. Like, how did this happen to me? This is so crazy, but I love it. It's amazing. Like, that's how I feel about it. Is like, how did this happen? This is wild,
When do you, and that's something I think about sometimes, like, when am I no longer, or I'll ask the question, when do you no longer feel like an imposter?
I couldn't tell you. I mean, I don't know that there's an answer. I think that's probably very individualized. I think that for me, if I ever I feel like I know who I am. I've got a gut sense of self, and I know what I'm good at, and I know what I can handle. But are you good?
Okay.
Go back.
We're back.
Imposter syndrome, how to reconcile.
Yeah. Well, more specifically, we will reset that question to the question I asked was, when do you no longer feel like an imposter? But given the things that you've done, the calls that you continue to answer, like, what more would you need to go, you know what? I'm that motherfucker. I'm who they say I am.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel good. I feel great about where I'm at. I want to continue to do more. It just continues to like drive my passion. As far as like, I don't know I think that kind of depends on the person. It depends on you as a human, your personality and how you deal with things. I always want to look up to the people that I'm around. I don't ever want to look at the people I'm around and be like, I'm better than you, or like that. I don't think that that's a good way to look at things. I don't want that feeling. I want to be around people who inspire me. I want to do better, or I want to do more. Like that's I want that. And if that comes with feeling maybe like I don't always belong, that's okay. If it feels okay for me because it's worked okay. It's worked pretty well. And the people that I'm around now shape my brain and my heart, and, in a better way than the people I was around before that.
What's the holy grail for you? Like, what is, if there is something that's happening right now that we know about, what would be one of those projects that you go, if I could get on that, whatever?
Like, is there a project now going?
Yeah, like, I don't know, Game of Thrones. I guess that's over, so I can use that. So, like, if it was a Game of Thrones, is there something out there that you look at and just go, if I could get on that or something like that, I will feel on top of the world?
I mean, I would love to do like a big feature. Like I've done, I guess they would be Oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to stop. She's coming. I'm gonna have to move my car. Do you need me to move my car? Okay. Okay, bye. The dog's might bark in a second. She's just pulling in. I would say like a bigger budget feature would be the thing. So like I was on the last Bourne movie, Jason Bourne. I was not, but as a background, just as a background actor. But I was very lucky that I lived right next to where they were shooting, so I was like always on time because I just walked next door.
Damn.
And I ended up making friends with the second AD, or I think the second AD at the time. He ran our our extras and all of that, and we started talking about being in industry and all of that. And he was like, "Oh well, what are you doing?" I was like, "Well, I just moved out here, and he showed me the background of everything. I was able to see like what the makeup in that situation looked like, and that was like. And I've been on bigger budget stuff where I had my own room, or I had like a small team, or an assistant or something like that. But that possibility of like being in a space, I mean, it was kind of an assembly line with the makeup, but man, what a crazy thing that would have been, to like, that's something I think that would maybe be fun to check off my list. The series was really fun to check. I never expected to do that. And as far as like ever feeling like I'm in over my head, I feel like I am that every time I take on a bigger role, but every time I'm so happy about it.
I think that's the play to me, like to be on the, like, as soon as you get like big, relatively big, meaning like, all right, I can control this type of situation. To be in a situation where you kind of have that doubt is the uncomfortable situations is where I feel like I thrive the most. And I think it was you or someone else I was telling, like, I need to get in bigger rooms because, like we talked about earlier, I don't particularly like being, I feel like when I'm the best person in the room, it's too easy. So that's not comfortable for me because I don't have anyone to like say, hey, what if you did this? Or, hey, try that out. Versus like being in a room where like, okay, these are some like hard hitters. I'm back in learning mode again. I'm back like I'm a spectator. I'm a fan. I'm still like, oh shit, I didn't think oh wow. Just having all those wow experiences where I'm back having that hunger for development. Like right now, when like a job says, was it a self-starter and all that type of, like I have to be that because no one else is going to push me in there. No one's going to say get better because they're looking at me like I'm some sort of like, man, I'm trying to figure out how to keep making the thing better than it was the last time. But it gets harder because where are my blind spots? Like I can't see what I can't see. And to me, it's so much more fulfilling to be in intimidating situations than to be in comfortable situations. I just do not. It's just not good self-development to be in comfortable situations.
Well,
it's
where the growth happens is the uncomfortable situations, of course, but also like as far as being like a self-starter goes, I mean I guess it depends on like what that role is, because within like the producing stuff, you do have to be somewhat of a self-starter. And for me, that when you're on a producing team, when it's that trickle down, that's really meaning like you have to be able to take this on and run it on your own if you need to, but also you have a team that you have to lean on. And that's when you, as just a human being, have to go, you know what? As much as I know, I need a little extra clarification. Let me call my PM, who maybe isn't here. Maybe he's remote. Or let me call, my director because I have a question. And even if it feels like a stupid question, it is better to ask that stupid question than to sit there in your brain and just like rack your brain going back and forth and not get anything done, right? Like just answer it. Like go get it answered. I think that so many people keep themselves in that situation, you know, where they're like, what do I do if I'm in here alone and I don't have the people to like bounce things off of? But also, if you don't have a team behind you, you still have like friends or family or other
Yeah.
people that are in industry that you can go, hey, you know, I don't know what to do here. And like, we have a lot of groups like in forums and things like that. And I know for like women in film and women producers, I have met some amazing women producers who put me into some groups where I can go, hey, I've never dealt with this. I'm here alone. I don't know what to do. Can
Right.
you help? You know, or for an example, when I was in field and I was completely alone, but I had nobody else who was there to help me. And I'm going to pick up supplies for everything, you know. I'm a single person. I'm a woman, a small woman. I went to the manager of the store. I said, hey, listen, this is what we're doing. I really need your guys' help. I'm alone. Can you help me? Can you get me some people? And he said, give me a minute. I'll get you two people to follow you around with carts and we'll do this. And that's when you have to lean on people. And people have such a like hard time asking for help. And this industry has definitely made me understand that you have to. And you have to know when you need to.
Yeah.
And it's okay to. And being a self-starter is good too. But sometimes you just have to lean on other people, whether they're there, you know, in your industry or specific to that situation or not. You just have to reach out to people.
That's why I've been lucky. And I went to art high school and arts and performing arts high school. So I went for art, this painting and all this. Wasn't in theater. That wasn't even a thing I thought about. I was just like watching movies. But my class of friends or my class are all maneuvering through the entertainment industry in some form. And like you said, being able to, you know, find the people to ask. And I've been lucky enough that like people pick up the phone for me. But going back to those friends who are like, you know, in some cases have worked on big projects like you have, that they still answer the phone like, hey man, quick question. You know, being able to ask these questions and you know, like right now, my phone's was going off, and my friend Mike, who is a creative director for Beats and Apple and Nike and all this type of stuff, is like, hey, we need to get on a Zoom because of this and that. Sure, don't really like being on a Zoom, I'll be honest with you. But, all right, man, you asked me to get on because, you know, when I hit you up, I want you to answer. So when you hit me up, I'm definitely going to answer. I don't know what you need from me, but like we cultivated, you know, instead of looking at our different levels and spreading apart, like being on different levels actually brought us together because we still want to be able to have normal conversations. We still want to talk about, stupid stuff on the football game, stupid shows we don't like, or drama and all this type of stuff. And being able to just have that little piece of normality that later, when it comes to like the work, we can just go, all right, what do you need? How can I help you? I mean, yeah, no, that's what it is. We've been this way for a long time. So that's been the stuff that has helped. Like you being able to, when I say self-starter, more so saying like, I have to so much depend on myself to get better, than like knowing that like, all right, someone's gonna, the project, and I'm talking more about on my work side. On my personal side, when it comes to this stuff, like everybody I know who is smart, I'm like, hey, quick question, what do you think about this? I'm thinking about doing this. I don't know what that is. I need you to explain that to me. Like, if I don't get it, I need you to break it down to me. I don't even want to pretend to understand something I don't understand, because that's where I make mistakes. I don't like making mistakes.
Yeah.
So, just words I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh, I just think it's all just different personalities, and again, like different aspects, or like how you think and how you move. I just think it comes with growth and change and age and experience, life experience. You know.
Yeah.
You know.
You said you was old. Now I'm feeling like I must be old.
No, I just think, you know, when you have life experience and you understand, like, there's so many more things to be worked up about, and like, you know, it's just kind of like you said, it's not heart surgery. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get upset. It doesn't mean that you're not going to have like a frustration, or you're not going to need to like really take a day to like not yell at somebody. You know, just walk away or something like that. Those are all just things that we feel. But at the end of the day, like once you finish that project, you come out of it to your real life. You know what I mean? And so that's still there.
But Constance is so you got, what did you just say? Born. She's done Born. Background, she claims. What else we need to watch? We need to watch the BTK, the A&E. That's one part. Then there was what's the second part?
That was Invisible Monsters.
Invisible Monsters.
And then also
on A&E.
Confessions of a Serial Killer.
On A&E.
Dirty Old Cars on
Discovery.
History Channel. Yeah.
Discovery Network.
I was on a Ray Donovan episode.
Ray Donovan. Okay.
I think it was episode like, oh gosh, I don't know. I can't remember.
You was in Ray Donovan?
I was in Ray Donovan, and I was also in the Andrew Dice Clay show.
Hold on. Let's go back to Ray Donovan. Liv Schreiber.
Yes, he's a very, very tall man.
What were you doing in Ray Donovan?
I was being a high-end lady in the casino, and I was with I had a scene with John Voight and Buffalo Bill from Silence and
Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, Ted Levine.
I don't know his name.
I always mix him. It's Ted Levine because I always mix him with Stacy Keachum. I don't know why, but yeah, it's such a nice man. Such a nice man. Oh my God, just the sweetest and small, but very nice.
So you was a high-end lady at the casino.
I was just like a casino lady, like, you know, and we have like a little interaction, and then I walked away, and that was it, you know. Super silly, but
it's something. So we got Ray Donovan. We got History Channel. We got A&E. Where else we gotta find you?
If you really want to go back, you can find some Entertainment Tonight episodes. Some ET. A while back.
ET comes on every day. You're gonna be going deep.
Recently I did a Microsoft Surface commercial, but I'm not really sure where you find that.
Adweek.
Let's see. All those old Walmart commercials, if you really want to find them.
Wally World.
Yeah, David Yuso was also in those, if you're familiar with him.
She's locally. Look at this, and she says imposture.
Let's see.
Bangers. She just named it Bangers. What's next? What's coming up?
No, what is coming up? I have
that you can talk about.
Oh, I have some corporate stuff. I'm not quite sure who this client is, but a client I did, or a production company I worked with last year for Bose. We did campaign for Bose Aviation. We did all of their new sunnies and all of that stuff. So they reached out to me recently. I'm not entirely sure who the client is for that, but I have that coming up after this trip.
So tell people about the History Channel situation, that show, because you were showing some cars on there. I was like, man, I kind of want to see about that. What's the show? What is it about?
So Dirty Old Cars it's more so about restoration.
Yeah.
Than like the actual, like the paint, the look of it than like the motor restoration. So we were going to these rural farms, we're going to this rural land, we're finding cars that were buried, you know, in barns. People put them there because they had ideas of doing things and then they never did, or, you know, somebody got this passed down because somebody died and it's just been sitting there. What do we do? You know, there's dead animals and then there's so much poop, just so much poop.
At least there weren't dead people in there.
No, not dead people, just a lot of guts and mice and cat pee. So much cat pee.
That comes with hoarding.
But it was really fun, and we got to experience these really interesting people and see how these things came to life and kind of watch everything.
So where did you go? How long were you there?
So we were in a small town called Mankato, Minnesota. It was outside of the Twin Cities.
Minnesota.
Yeah, so a small town, and it was definitely interesting. I want to say, ended up all in 2.5 months, maybe closer to 3. We had a little bit of pre-pro that got cut, so it wasn't quite as long in our like pre-week as we needed. And then, of course, things always go a little bit longer, and then there's finalizing things, and there's paperwork afterwards. When you're in field, you're, first in, last out, always.
How, we'll end on this. How does, because, the entertainment business, people look at so much of the creative. so much of the video, the editing, the coloring, all this type of stuff. How much of what you do is kind of pushing pins and kind of logistical, like, and why would somebody or should someone consider it? Because everyone wants to be a director, actor, this, that. Why should they consider doing something like that if they really want to be a part of it?
Logistics is everything. It is everything when you are shooting. You have to know what your permits are. You have to know how long you can be somewhere. You have to have your releases. I mean, the show can't get edited and put it out if I can't release you. You know, if you're not going to okay it, then there's really no point, right? So if you don't have people micromanaging or, you know, crossing those T's and dotting those I's, you're not really going to get it to play anywhere. And that's okay if you just, again, you want to do art or something like that, or maybe it's a smaller project, that's okay. There's certainly ways to cut corners, but also having somebody who understands the time management aspect, because that can impact your budget so much, you know. And then what can we do to cut corners? What can we do? You know, how many hats, you know, can we all have and still be comfortable? You know, what can we do this way with a practical versus, you know, ordering other equipment? Or, you know, what happens when you have to go on location and, you know, you get stranded, your generator dies. If you don't have a backup because you're so, you know, into the creative aspect of it, which is great. You should be creative, but that is why there are so many different people and so many different heads in the game, and why you have to learn to communicate and lean on your people.
What is a job that someone is doing right now that will be perfect for someone to, like, they don't really care about working for Coke industry and they do a job in Coke industry, but that job could easily translate into like being a field producer or producer on something creative?
Marketing, certainly, most aspects of marketing will transfer over, because you have to know how to talk to people. You have to, you know, also, again, understand some of the legalities of it, or how to communicate effectively. I would say also, if you, I don't want to say like serving people, because it's not really like that, but if you like tasks, if you are task oriented and you like checking off those marks, and you like maybe having somebody to answer to. I don't necessarily want to always be the big boss. Like I don't need that responsibility.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Hell.
Like, but I can go to somebody and be like, what are my tasks? What do you need me to do? And I can be a workhorse about it and do it. You know what I mean? And so there's just a lot of different aspects in this industry that you can go into, and you can really tap into those different parts of your personality and your joys if you know how to not stand in the way of yourself.
That's impossible. People, we like being in our own
Yes.
way.
Yeah.
Proudest moment in this whole industry, in entertainment industry, what is your most proudest moment where you felt like I was firing on all cylinders and I walked away and this is like, I'm very proud and happy about this?
Well, I mean, it changes with every, you know, job, because of course I was so proud when I got Entertainment Tonight. Like, wow, oh my gosh, I did it. How amazing. You know, here I am with the host of Entertainment Tonight. Oh, and you want me back? That's amazing, even more, you know. And then of course there's like, you know, seeing your name on network TV, you know, and it's like, oh wow, that's amazing. And then having the undertaking of a full season and going through those hardships with everybody, and still continuing on the end, you know, making sure everything's finalizing and getting wrapped up, because there's still things that are happening now, you know, that they contacted me for, and then seeing that on TV, like every time I do something, it's a proud moment, and I want to continue to be proud of myself, and I think that's, you have to be. I mean, how do you do this life without me?
So if you,
but don't be too proud, because then you get overconfident.
So if you had to pick one though.
Yikes. I don't do this, do we? I'm not good with decisions.
Ray Donovan.
That was pretty cool.
Death Alley.
I would say
Sprint.
Okay. No, I didn't do Sprint. So not really even like a moment of like something that I did personally, but I met Greg Canham, who was the artist who created Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula on Gary Oldman.
Okay.
And when I met him and he was asking me and talking to me about stuff, a mutual friend introduced, and he was like, "Oh, you're an artist," and I was like, "No, buddy, you're an artist," like no. But when he and I were talking,
I am but a child.
Yeah, I was like, "I'm nothing. I'm just here," And then we started talking about like what I had done, and he's like, "You're an artist." I think that was one of those moments I was like, "I guess I do things."
I just felt like that's how that story was going to end. Like, I can dig that because I think
it was nice. This is this person who knew me from nothing. He didn't need to instill any sort of confidence in me.
And it's because y'all just had a conversation.
Yeah.
Didn't see any work. I think, but that's what I think the sum of this whole conversation is about the people, the tribes the people and the tribes that you kind of find that are like you or similar to you, and like, you don't need to see a person's work to like know that, oh, that's one of them right there. Like, I can tell, like, that's one of them. It's not an imposter. It's not this. It's like, this conversation tells me that you are that person, that you belong in these rooms. And I think I would probably feel the same way if that person, in conversation can look at you and feel like you are just like, come on, let's go get some chicken or something. Like, that would be, I feel like those are the moments that do probably feel better than a credit, because that is credit.
There's no ego in that with those people. They want to see everybody better.
Yeah.
And when you are with good people like that, who, again, like we're talking about this whole, like, people talk about leveling up, but I think it's just that thing of finding the people you vibe with, the organic relationships that you continue to grow and get better from. Like, there's no ego in that. That's all about, it's a symbiosis of like, I want you to do well and you want me to do well. And like, it doesn't always mean that we're constantly like doing things with one another, but we're always rooting for one another. You know what I mean? And if something comes up and I'm like, I know the person, then that's the person I'm going to go to. I'm not going to dilly-dally and find somebody else for it. I know the person, and we're going to continue to support one another because there's no ego in it. And it's just creating and doing better. And again, there's so much work to go around. There's so much.
You see, this very conversation, what you just said, you see often when you see a director work with the same actors or the same director of photography. Like, once you know that person's work, you guys kind of have that chemistry with each other. Like, you know how to communicate, or when you walk away, you know that person understands your vision. They understand how you like stuff, and they can concoct whatever they need to concoct for the next time you come around and say, hey, how's it going? It's like, perfect. I'm about to go work on this because this motherfucker here new. So let me go work on that. You keep doing what you're doing. And even eventually that new person becomes like, okay, come join us. Come join us. You one of us now because we seeing you work through those. Pretty much kind of similar to your journey of navigating. It's like someone gave you a gig or put you in a position to have a gig. Probably wasn't the most experienced, probably didn't have all the right lingo, and eventually you are the person with the lingo and the experience. Like, come on, got a new project, let's go.
Well, and those are the advantages and those assets that I was talking to you about, that I know that I've, somebody gave me an opportunity. I'm not going to waste it. My stepdad always wanted to give people the opportunity to create like a life, and he did for me. If there was a small job that maybe didn't pay so much, like, I had the ability to go somewhere, because my parents would be like, it's okay, just go take that job, like, we'll handle the cats, or we'll do this, or whatever it is. Like, you have that support. Those are the things,
cats.
There's a lot of them. Or like, hey, here's a car that you don't have to pay for, and like that, I know that that's an advantage that I had, where I didn't have to be so worried. So I did everything I could to really make those like matter, that I could get far, so that I could do things on my own, so I can pay those things forward to my family, to other people who have the passion for this. And I don't think that I could have gotten as far as I did without all of the support. And that comes with the people you meet, the conversations you have, your friends, your family that stay with you through all of it. Because it's a tough industry, but you can do it. You can
do it. You can do it. This is what I like about Constance. Like, she'll give you this big confident statement, and then at the end, it'll be like, "Oh, whatever you want to do."
I mean, that's you just don't put the pressure on yourself to be like, I have to be like this person or that person, because that's not you. This is your journey, and you just need to take the journey that you're taking.
Well, Constance, this is a great conversation. I know you felt like you was meandering so that you can go run later. Would you say my mind walks so my
non-work brain walks so my work brain can run?
Yep. That's the first time someone's ever said that quote.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how else to be.
That's the best part. That's why it's a little bit, man, you've seen Psycho?
Sure.
And when Norman Bates says we're all a little crazy sometimes, like, it's the realest shit. This is like, I don't want to get into Hitchcock because then I'll start nerding on that. But, so do you do the social media thing? You want people to follow you or find you, as you want them to just leave you alone and watch TV?
Oh, no, sure, they can. I don't know how interesting it'll be. It's a lot of cats and then just a lot of like travel stuff. But
the travel is the work.
The travel is the work. So I'm just not very good about posting, but I will always support everybody else. It's Constance Lives Again on Instagram, because I lost my other Instagram. And that's really it. My Facebook, I do post some things, and you can follow me on that. It's mostly for family, and then stuff I post public is work. So that's the only way you'd see it public. But I'm pretty private on that part.
Well.
And then I guess my IMDb. Always follow my IMDb. Support me on Staff Me Up. It's just Constance Consuela. So
there you go. Staff Me Up. That means you can hire her.
You can.
Wherever you at in the world.
I travel. I'm
she
fully
definitely
mobile.
Travels. Like, this is today. Tomorrow, where you going tomorrow?
I have to go to Georgia on Thursday.
And yesterday she was in Vegas. Yeah. Last week she was in.
I was here, I think.
British Columbia.
Somewhere.
Then she was in.
I was in Lawrence. I was in Lawrence last week.
She was in Lawrence.
There you go.
She was like, "All right, where can we fit in the schedule? Because if we don't do it now, I'm gonna be on a roller coaster."
I really don't know where I'll end up. That's kind of the issue.
Which is great. That's a good problem to have.
It is.
People are looking for that very problem.
It is.
So.
Well, have no life, have no family, have like very shallow relationships. It'll be great. No, I'm just kidding.
Cats.
Cats are great. Dogs
they love
are hard.
Seeing you when you
Dogs
get back.
Are hard. Yeah.
That's why I get a dog. I got a cat. She's a support animal. That's how it worked out.
Yeah.
I almost had to get rid of, and I didn't realize how torn I was.
No, you just have them write a letter. Huh? Just have your therapist write a letter.
That's where we at.
That's why I
got one. Because I didn't, so my dad passed, had a breakup, hold this up thing. I need something. The home was too quiet. Had other problems going on. I was like, get something moving around. And so I got that. And because I grew up with a cat. Oh, no, I wanted a dog. And it snowed. And I was like, nah, I'm not getting up to take no dog out.
Mm-hmm.
So got a cat. And then there was like it was like a year down. There was like, you got to get rid of the cat. I'm like, no. I thought it was going to be simple. Okay, I'll get rid of the cat.
No.
And then I looked at the cat. I was like, I can't get rid of this motherfucking cat. So I figured out what to do, got the little paperwork, and so we're good. So Cassie has a forever home.
Good.
So that's another episode of the All New Midnight Movie Club. I'm your host, aRowe. We didn't talk about any movies, so there no spoilers to worry about, which is cool because we talked about the industry of the work. And, some episodes is going to be me talking about how Scooby-Doo is the basis for all horror films and thrillers. And some episodes about reality TV and the craziness of things like Love After Lockup.
Oh.
and then some is, I think this one is for people who, the artists, the entertainers, the people who question themselves, or don't know how to navigate and don't know where to start. Need that glimpse to see behind the curtain to see if maybe I do really want to do this. That's what happened for me as in documentary, I had we all chase film festivals, and one of my mentors, he had a podcast. He was early adopter in the podcast world, and he talked about how he was just done with festivals. He won Tribeca. He won. So he wasn't even like, he said that from a losing perspective, but he was just saying like, are you only making this to win something? Are you telling stories you really want to tell? And when just that whole conversation was the conversation I needed to hear to be okay with like, yeah, I know most people might not understand the subject, but it's something interesting about the subject to me, and I'm gonna pursue that. Luckily, I learned how to be a really good storyteller when it comes to documentary, so I feel like I can make anything interesting. But before then, I was like, well, I guess I need to go do a story like this and be traditional. And that conversation and hearing that made me change. So hopefully, this type of conversation is gonna be one of those conversations for someone who was like me listening to Sean. There's the younger Constance listening to Constance going, you know what? I'm gonna say yes to things.
And, within reason.
Within
reason. Be safe.
Be safe. Be safe. This is a treacherous industry.
Just know that your own path is your own path, and you can choose that, and don't like hold yourself to everybody else's standards. Just figure it out and be okay with it.
Be you.
I know that's super hard when you're learning, but that's why you try on all sorts of different personalities.
That is true. I mean, and that's like I said. I mean, that's literally, I was about to go a direction towards doing probably stuff I didn't like. I wouldn't have I don't know, because I'd never went that direction, so it's hard. It's conjecture at this point, but yeah, I've kind of been like, these are the things that are interesting to me in terms of documentary subject matter when I'm working on that. Like I talked about, my scripts are mostly about me working out my problems through characters and all this type of stuff. So having and granted, like with time, it was, when I started, it was easier because I didn't know anything. I could just do whatever. But now it's like, I know too much. So now I'm overthinking about all the new things I know now that I never even considered.
But that's just how most of our personalities work, and that's just something you have to reconcile within yourself and figure out a plan of how to master that to get to the next step in your script or in your career or whatever it is that you want to do. But also understand and harness those things, because overthinking is a good thing sometimes in our industry. Being over-prepared is great. Having anxiety that something might go wrong is great, because you're going to understand what might go wrong and
take
be
your
prepared.
Weaknesses and turn them into superpowers.
It's totally okay to have those things. They're useful.
I don't even know how I ended my show now.
I'm sorry.
I got 3 podcasts now. I co-host 2 of them. I'm on this. I got my own. Until next time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Follow social media. At this point, go to the beginning. This is the ending. I'm trying to figure. I forgot what I used to say at the end.
This has been Midnight Movie Club. We did not talk about movies. Something happened.